Top State Department official has arrived on Capitol Hill to testify in the impeachment inquiry against President Trump. David Hale is the agency's third highest ranking official. Here's some of the new video of him arriving. Democrats want answers from Hale on the removal of former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Marie Yovanovitch.
She testified she felt threatened by President Trump. Her deposition focused on the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, trying to push Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden as the 2020 election heats up. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News State Department and Foreign Affairs reporter Christina Ruffini. She's following the latest in Washington. So, Christina, who exactly is David Hale, and why are Democrats so interested in what he has to say?
So David Hale, as you said, is the third highest guy at the State Department. Basically, his job is to oversee policy in the different regions, including the Western Hemisphere, Middle East, Asia, and Europe, which is obviously where all this Ukraine drama went down. He's a career Foreign Service officer, not a political appointee. Now, as you know, the White House and State Department have tried to stop some of these individuals from testifying, but that gets more complicated when you get to career diplomats because they are required as part of their job to comply with subpoenas. If they don't, there can be grave consequences, including a loss of retirement, pension, etc. So Hale obviously decided to show up, whereas others who've been called today, including senior counselor Ulrich Breckball, are not expected to show.
Speaking of that, Christina, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is in Germany today, and spotted on board his plane was his senior advisor, who, as you mentioned, was scheduled to actually testify in the impeachment inquiry. So what can you tell us about this?
So he has traveled with the secretary before, according to the State Department. I haven't seen him on the plane, but I don't go on all the trips, so I don't doubt their response to me when I asked this morning if he usually goes on the plane. And the fact that he's on a plane to Germany means it's pretty safe bet he's not showing up today. But even if he were in the country, he's one of those names we weren't expecting to comply because as a political appointee, he doesn't really have to as much as the Foreign Service officers, and he's also very close to Pompeo. They were class points at West Point together. He's basically his consigliere. He's a senior advisor. He carries out whatever tasks the secretary needs done. And like we said, there's no immediate career consequences for him ignoring the subpoena, even if one was given. So he was never really expected to be there, although sources tell me he does have knowledge of the events surrounding the recall of Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch.
So, Ruffini, many of the secretaries, department officials, and others are testifying now before Congress. They're choosing to do so and to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry. However, Pompeo continues to stand by President Trump. I saw a really fascinating op-ed, I'm sure you did too, Christina, in the Washington Post, David Ignatius, essentially asking, where is Mike Pompeo? You have folks who have essentially testified that he never had their backs. His only job, it seems, as a Secretary of State was to stay in President Trump's good graces. So what's the role that he's playing in all of this as this plays out on Capitol Hill?
He's made a big stink saying that by not allowing State Department lawyers in the room with these individuals when they testify, that the committee is doing wrong by his people. And he's just trying to protect his hardworking, patriotic diplomatic staff by keeping them from doing or saying anything that could compromise classified information or even their careers in the future. But the sentiment around the building inside the State Department is that Pompeo isn't trying to protect the rank and file, he's trying to protect the president. And that's the reason senior advisor Mike McKinley, it seems, walked out after 37 years because, among other things, Pompeo wouldn't issue a letter of support for that Ukrainian ambassador before she was recalled.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about that? Because Pompeo has sort of found himself in this awkward position where McKinley testified that he had gone to him 3 times about this. And McKinley says, Pompeo would not issue that letter or statement. And then Pompeo was, on TV saying that he had never received a request like that at all. So someone's not telling the truth. And from that, people started to sort of question whether or not Pompeo, because it wasn't a good look, as they say, whether or not Pompeo was still in the president's good graces. So sort of moving forward in terms of his own ambitions, what's it looking like for him?
So far, he's still, he's the last survivor on the island. He still seems to be in a good position of power. The president took under advisement his Pompeo's favorite for a national security advisor, Robert O'Brien. So that, to a lot of us, seems to solidify his position as the current still running favorite. But he has broader political ambitions. There's the senator from Kansas is not running again. Pompeo lived in Kansas, and all assumptions are he's going to go for that seat. He's visited the state 4 times in the past few months and done more than 200 interviews with local Kansas media stations. There have been so many trips there that Democrats in Congress are calling for an investigation into whether the secretary is using federal money to kind of prep for his campaign. Now, that's something Pompeo has called just silliness. And the Kansas City Star recently wrote an op-ed that basically said, look, either or get off the pot, right? Basically, either quit your job and run for Senate or focus on your current job, but stop trying to do both. Look, it's not official. Pompeo has been asked about it. He said he likes his current job and won't say he's going to run, but he's been meeting with financiers. He met with the Koch brother when he was there, who's been a longtime supporter of his, and he doesn't have to file until the spring. So we'll have to watch the Ukraine investigation and see where the impeachment goes, and if Kansas voters see his role as a liability or an asset if he decides to get into the race.
All right, Christina Ruffini for us. Thank you as always, Christina.
Thank you both.